So again, let's recap for those who just came. What we're dealing with is the feeling that's called atzos. It's important to note, which we already did, that atzvus is not a difficulty. Atzvus is a feeling that you feel that you can't. The moment a person feels, I can't, it's over, I'm pulled down, I'm tied down, and they don't have the ability to act, that's atzvus. Difficulties are normal. Every action is a difficult thing to do, because if it wasn't done, it takes effort to do, so it's going to be difficult. Clean a kitchen is difficult. Do anything is difficult. Atzvus is that's why I gave the example of staying in bed. I can't get out of bed. I can't, I'm done. So we gave that example because that's the most severe case of being let down. There's a lot of fancy words for it. I'm not going to use the word depression because that's not the correct word. It's being tied down. It doesn't have to go to even the feeling of I can't go further, that's already atzvus. And here the Alter Rebbe teaches us 3 thoughts how we can deal with it. And we're dealing now with the first thought. First thought the Alter Rebbe shares with us, which we're going to spend time in, is the power of the mind. The Alter Rebbe says, the mind. The Alter Rebbe says, you're clogged down. Bring the plumber. The plumber is the head. There's a lot of fancy words in Tanya. Let's discuss this. Let's discuss what this means. Really, but I'm clogged down. I really feel down. I really feel tied down. You're going to force me to go away? How do I not force myself? How do I bring myself to willingly get out of it? How do I pull myself out of it? And like we said in the beginning, this is nothing to do with a gift. This is every single person shaykh to it. And it's got to be a possibility for every single person. So in order to understand this is a story of the Rambam, a very famous story, because don't forget that Alter Rebbe writes in Akdama to Tanya, a lot of his thoughts are based on the Rambam and the Maral. The 2 people before the Alter Rebbe that gave machshov in Torah was Maral and the Rambam. A lot of it is based on that. Look in Akdama, you'll see that. So the famous story of the Maral with the Rambam, we don't pay attention to the debate that the Rambam had. It was a philosophical debate that he had with the other people in the court over there, in the Arab court over there, in the Muslims over there, whatever. But it brought down, what was the story with the Rambam? Famous story. The philosophers, the ministers, whatever, at the court claimed that there's an ability to change an animal. That an animal, famous story with the cat and the mouse. I assume most of us know it, but it's important to pay attention to what happened there and to what shita, to what approach to humans the Rambam was trying to express, to bring out. What happened? They claimed that there's an ability to change animals. An animal can be trained, and people today claim that, which is not true. An animal can be trained and somehow be able to become something it isn't. For example, they said, look, we can take a cat and train it to be a waiter. They took the cat and they trained it. It stood on 2 legs. It went down the aisle, the red carpet with the nice little platter of cakes over there, and had a tuxedo, and it looked beautiful. Even smiled, and it went down the aisle, and everybody's clapping. They had another cat behind it. It was gemoyredik. The Rambam took out a little mouse, and the mouse went down the aisle, and the cat forgot where it was, and it started chasing the mouse. So the Rambam says, case closed. You see, a cat is a cat is a cat is a cat. Done. That's what the Rambam says. What's behind it? There's a flip side to it. A human is not a cat. There's a flip side to it. Humans do have the ability to change. And that was also part of the equation of the Rambam. Bechira, we're going to talk about this. The ability to change means to say, who is in charge? Nature and nurture are both not dictating to us end games. We're going to talk about this. People have willpower, and that is simply a game changer. It changes nature. It changes nurture. A person who had a car accident is not destined to have effects of that car accident for the rest of their life. Not true. A person who's not born with a lot of abilities, a person who has a child, who doesn't have nature, who's not superstar in talents. He's not Mr. Mrs. Super talented. But if the mother unleashes the child's willpower, they become superstar and they become super talented, although they weren't born super talented. Willpower, a doctor turns around to a patient, the first question they ask them is, do you want to live? Medicine can't do what willpower can do. If you want to live, you will live. Atzvus is the opposite of willpower. Atzvus is a feeling of I can't, which means to say I don't want to. I lost my willpower. The first understanding and appreciation we need to have is who we could be, what we have the ability to be, and the recognition of what willpower really is again. There's a few stories that illustrate this. There's a story. It was actually in the WhatsApps. They were sending it around recently with a Goyish person. His name is Thomas Edison. It was on the WhatsApp. You saw it? Did it come around? Beautiful story. Yeah. It illustrates this Nakuda. It's the same Nakuda, right? All right. He comes home and he gets. This is a story that every mother should read. Yeah. Every mother should read that story. Because this is the emes. This is what a Yiddish mama should do. Although it was a Goyish mama, but it's what a Yiddish mama does. He came home and he brought a note to his mother. And his mother read it, and his mother said, the note says that the principal says, you are too smart for our school, so therefore you have to be homeschooled. So his mother homeschooled him. He looked into the old satellach of his mother, and he sees a note, and the note said, your child is too dumb, and we cannot have him in our school. The mother, in her cleverness, had the ability to tell the child what he needed to hear to allow him to become the inventor he became. Yeah. Willpower in the Chassidus the Lashon is Ratzon and Koiches HaNefesh. Ratzon is willpower. Willpower trumps talent. Every single person has that ability of willpower where they can simply pick themselves up and change talents that they currently have. That's willpower. That's Ratzon. And that is with nature and nurture. There's a story with the Alter Rebbe that brings this out. A few points that bring this out. The Alter Rebbe, there was once a chassid knocking on his door, and he was knocking for a while, and the Alter Rebbe didn't open the door. When the chassid finally came, it was freezing cold outside. So he says to Alter Rebbe, why did you do this to me? I was knocking. I forgot which chassid it was. Why'd you make me knock so long? Alter Rebbe told him the same line. He said, I wanted to teach you a lesson. No matter who's knocking on your door, no matter how strong that knock is, you have a choice. Do you open the door or close the door? There's nothing in the world that we don't have the power to open or close the door from. I was thinking about this and I thought to make it relevant to today. People spend billions of dollars in the marketing world to put an ad. But you have a bechira to click on it or not. No one can force you. Billions of dollars, no one can force you. Willpower is pashut, a real thing in life. People have a choice that they make how they choose to react. A person, whether it's nature in the sense of talent, whether it's nurture in the sense of things surrounding us, willpower trumps everything. And that's the first thought the Alter Rebbe teaches us, which is the ability of a person. Sometimes you walk down the street, you see these people holding pets. So usually the person is in the front and the pet is in the back. But sometimes you see the person's running after the pet, right? Life is the same thing. Who's in charge? Who's in charge? Mi moshechet mi. Mi moshechet mi, right? Willpower is the ability to hold life by a leash and not be pulled by circumstances. When we're pulled by circumstances, the recognition that we have the leash changes the equation. There's a recognition we need to recognize. We're not animals. We're not the cat. It's a real thing. Whether it has to do with natural problems. I'm not born with that. It's not my kind of thing. Not true. Stop. He wasn't either. He wasn't either. He wasn't either. She wasn't either. Do you want? I have a major sickness. I can't make it through. Not true. Medicine is one thing. Willpower is another. Doctors will tell you the same thing. Two patients, one who doesn't have the will to live and one who doesn't, same sickness, same medicine, the one who does will recover quicker. So there's something in our hands that's beyond what's thrown at us. Not only is it beyond, but we have the ability to change it. That's in nature and that's in nurture. And that's the first thought that's behind the three thoughts that we're going to talk about. The first thought is ratzon, willpower. We have the ability to change things. Very, very powerful thought in itself. Now, obviously, this leads to a second thought. Okay, but what's going to energize me to want? First thing is a recognition that I have the ability. But what allows me to unleash, to actualize that ability? There's got to be something that I should be able to somehow process in my mind that pushes me and tells me, okay, so I'm now going to actually change the equation. I'm going to push. What is that thought process that allows me? Two people hitting the same equation, one wants, one doesn't want. What allows me to do it? What puts me into that driver's seat that I actually change the equation? And that's the second thought of Tanya. This is already more bifnim, we'll see it later. But this is the second thought. What's the second thought of Tanya?
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
Someone told me recently that her daughter broke, this was a while ago, her daughter broke her ankle. And the doctor put on the cast and said it's going to take 3 months. And then they passed the Rebbe. And the Rebbe said, "Trach gut wird sein gut." Cut it in half to 6 to 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Took the cast off in 3
It's
weeks.
always, yeah. אבל למה יש כל כך הרבה מדוכאים בימינו?
אז נראה שתי דברים אחרים.
Also, doctors like to be covered. So
They-
that's
cover
why they
their-
always give you.
So let's put it in order. The first point is the ability of willpower. It's a beautiful story that brings out the end game. But how does a person bring themselves to want? Lama yesh midukayim atzlichim lirsot. What brings a person to want? So the second and third thought is just as important as the first. The first is a recognition that we have that ability. Shkoyach. But I have to somehow awaken within me. So what's the mindset? So the first is Mayach Shalat Alev, the Keyach of Mayach, the Keyach of Ratzon, Bechira. That's will, by the way, that's Bechira Chavshis.
כן.
Chavshis means it's free. You are free, no matter what's thrown at you, you're always free. We do have that ability. We have a choice. It's tough, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But don't say I can't. So now what is that thought process that allows a person to actualize it? So here, we're up to the second thought. The second thought, to understand it starts, there's a story that actually also brings us out. There's a story with Yechidus. So there's a chassid that comes into Yechidus, and he went through a difficult time. He was a wealthy man. He lost a lot of money, and also money that other people gave him. He was very tzibrochen, very broken. And it's a story that we all know, but we don't pay attention. Sometimes a vertical of Alter Rebbe is really an expression of a whole outlook. So he walks in and he's tzibrochen, and he cries to Alter Rebbe, and Alter Rebbe tells him a lie. What does Alter Rebbe tell him? Alter Rebbe says, till now you're crying about what you need. But did you for a second think for what you are needed for? That's all Alter Rebbe told him. Nice story. He fainted. He obviously got it. I didn't faint just now. Right? He got it. And then he stayed in Lubavitch and he changed. What's the point of here, Alter Rebbe? The point is that there's a very powerful point there. And that is, the real reason behind Atzvus is you don't feel you're important.
Like you don't make a difference.
1 second.
Right?
If a person would think for a second that I'm the crown jewel, you think David should put you here for because he's bored? What do you think you're bored? He is bored. Why would he put you here? If I would recognize that I have something that I can do that no one can, not only no one can, no one in the whole world could, no one in previous generations could. And that's why I'm around. How do I know if I wouldn't be here? That recognition in itself should be super powerful for a person. It's a real recognition. It's a real thing. You are needed. You're not a... There's two kinds of feelings of weightiness. There's two kinds of feelings of atzar. You go on a trip. So it's a long trip. So it takes time. So it's, then there's a feeling lost, like I have no journey. I don't know where I'm going. I don't even know if I'm important enough to go on the journey. That's the worst feeling. That's atzvus. You don't have a journey? Why would you be here if you have no journey? What, he's bored? If we would look at ourselves like a piece of a puzzle, which we are, that a master craftsman designed it. And he put each piece in each kind of circumstance that happens in life adds to that uniqueness of the piece. And I am that piece. And I am there to make the puzzle. And bishvili nivra olam. And there's nothing that can happen without me. And kol olam kav zchut, right? My little... That's a huge recognition that a person suddenly waits. What do you mean? I need. Atzvus is I'm not needed. And the Alter Rebbe is trying to tell you, you are needed. That second recognition is,
How do you make someone understand that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's prevalent. This is what's prevalent in our
First,
the youth generation. It's totally prevalent. They're killing themselves.
Totally.
the first thing is, there's a, people Grace of Darga, so you're maimin, so you believe. There's a simple logic here. There's a, they say the joke of Chelm, right? And in Chelm, I said this before. In Chelm, there was when they first came out with the train. So they wanted to know, how's the train work? So why am I saying this joke? Because the appreciation that the Eibishter designed me should be so fun, should be so real that I'll laugh. I should laugh when you tell me otherwise. When you laugh at something, then you know it's really real. When you say, oh, I hear what you're saying, that means I can also hear not what you're saying, right? So a person has to have a certain recognition. So that's why I'm saying this joke, because this joke really illustrates it. So the train came out, so they're discussing how does the train come. So 99 Chacham decide, okay, we're gonna go on a journey and figure this out. They come back. You heard this from me before? No. They come back, and they have a maskana. The 99th Chacham says, the train moves, it's pulled by the 98th. So you have 99 cards. All are very happy. 98 explains it's pulled from 97th. 97 explains it's pulled from 96. Everybody's clapping. Amazing. Beautiful. These are Harvard universities. I mean, you're talking about top-notch Chacham that you pay $50,000, $60,000 a year to study for this kind of stuff, to explain how evolution, 96 comes from 97, 95, 94. Okay, finally explain how all 99 cards are pulled by the other, and they leave the stage, and it's all good. So Yidler, who didn't go to Harvard, doesn't have such a great education to come to such conclusions. And he had the chutzpah to ask them, he says, tell me, where does the first come from? So they stormed on the stage and said, you Alte Yidler, we explained to you 99. And you bothered Eina, and you're bothered by 1. The 99 equals I don't know. You didn't get anywhere. It should be so simple and so posh that if I'm around, I was put here. So why am I here? It should really be so simple. You shouldn't even have to explain it. There should be a recognition. And it should be, if it's simple by you, it'll be simple in the way you explain it to others. Why do you think you're around? You think you're just bored? You obviously have something to give to this world. Look in the mirror and look back at that person. You'll realize there's a crown jewel there. That's what his mother told him when he came back with a note. And that's what every mother tells their child. The problem is we don't tell it to ourselves all the time.
And what if the child says, I don't care?
He didn't hear it well enough.
It's that I don't care that's like the clincher.
Of course he cares that he's important. What he's saying is, help me actualize it.
Right.
Fine, so you'll give him the babies. Everybody cares that they're important. He might not, so help him realize that he's important. Everybody has a mila. The first area of this is practical. Every single person, even they say people with disabilities, they should give them a super ability.
Oh yeah.
So every person has a mila. We focus on chesroinus, which allows us to kvetch, instead of focusing on my uniqueness. A unique puzzle has a cut, has a unique design. There's got to be something unique. Otherwise, why are you around? Something has got to be. So, klap sich kappen van to figure out how you're unique. When a person kvetches, the best medicine is stop. Tell me how you're unique. No. Tell me how you're unique. Yeah. Tell me how you're unique. That, and does anybody else have that? And how do you have that? That puts things in perspective. They wish to put every pasuk kipshuti. This is what Bem Aleph, they wish is looking from the Mailuk and me Aleph Befrat. This is what the Alter Rebbe says. Every single person has a tafkid. The recognition that I'm on a journey, that allows me to unleash. There's going to be a question with this. Fine, we'll get there. But that recognition allows me to unleash my willpower. The worst feeling is the feeling that I don't have a journey. That's the worst feeling. That's atzvus.
Is procrastination part of that equation?
No procrastination. Sometimes if you don't really appreciate, well, zealousness comes from an appreciation of my journey. When you have a ticket and a flight, so you see there's something exciting about whatever is going, so you jump for it. Yeah, so if you're gonna slow or you're gonna classic around, so yeah, that because you don't appreciate you have a journey and you're jumping, yeah, it does come from it. But it leads, the real dead end is atzvus. Oh, I'm done. I can't. I don't matter. What do you mean you don't matter? What do you mean you don't matter? There's a real recognition here that every single person, Ibishta, should set aside everything. He had nothing better to do than create him, put him in the world with all the different things that are involved in his life because he wants him around. Because he wants him around.
Two questions. Just to continue the journey example. So, if someone does believe that they're on a journey, that's already something. They could be stuck in the mud though, and they feel like they're not getting anywhere, even though they know they have somewhere that they're supposed to go, and that could be, debilitating.
Look, there's two. That's okay. We all get stuck in the mud. I'll give you an example. Child when he walks. I gave this example before. Child when he walks. Remember that example? Child when he walks, so he can fall. Sometimes the child falls, they get a bloody nose. So someone silly is going to say, you shouldn't be stuck and get bloody noses. So I think really walking is not for you. It's just not your kind of thing. I mean, you should just join the crawling people and just never graduate to walking. I mean, we get bloody noses. Let's not fake it. Part of life is you get bloody noses. I mean, you're bloody. But the bloodiest thing is not to allow yourself to get bloody. I'm afraid of the journey. I don't have anything. Get the bloody nose and go on with life. The approach to the journey, I have a journey, I'll fall a little bit. And this leads to the second point. When I know I have a journey, when tough moments happen, if there's a designer to the journey, why would he wreck his own puzzle?
Maybe my destination is not something amazing.
That means you don't believe there's a good designer.
Maybe my
Pay attention. If he's a good designer, we have to really think about this.
Can you say that again? When I know I have a journey?
If I know I have a journey, and there's a master designer behind that journey, and I hit a tough moment, I hit a rough moment in life, and I throw in a towel, I'm essentially saying there's no designer. That means he would wreck his own puzzle. The recognition that I'm on a journey, and there's a master designer, and there's someone who knows what he's doing, allows me to push through moments I don't appreciate, and I reject, and are painful. Allows me to see beyond painful moments to purposeful moments. And that's what it means. That's what it really means. What do you mean mevarech al hara? How can I be mevarech al hara? I'm not mevarech on the hara. The elementary step of mevarech al hara is the ability to push. There's a purpose. And this is the mashal that I like saying with the donkey, right? The mashal with the donkey falls into a pit. The donkey feels like it's going to die. And then the villagers on the side of the pit throw in earth, collects on the side of the pit. The donkey thinks like it's going to die, but eventually it turns into a mount and the donkey goes out of the pit. The ability to look at life as a journey with the masterful designer behind it allows me to recognize that challenges are not there to bury me, but to uplift me. Challenges are not there to bury me. He's not looking to wreck his crown jewel. Why would he do that? Why would he take his crown jewel and wreck him? Oh, you don't feel like your crown jewel. Why not? You are. Look in the mirror and tell yourself you're a crown jewel. That will allow you to continue on. No one said there's no painful moments, but you don't know who you are.
We also don't know what we're going to become. We imagine that being a crown jewel means we're going to do amazing things and become all these different levels and really master certain things. But who's to say that's our destiny? maybe we really are like the one that's gonna continuously struggle. In every situation, we're supposed to overcome it.
Crown jewels get polished. Polishing is not a pleasant thing. Crown jewels get polished and they get more expensive. And they shine even more. No one said crown jewels don't get polished. We have imagination. I'm not saying we don't, but that's not what I'm here to say. What I'm trying to bring out is that the appreciation of. Now I want to get to the third. The third point is more what's that purpose? Clinging to the purpose and what that means. What does the word purpose really mean? Right? That's obviously. But the recognition in point A and the first point and the second point is powerful enough to push a person. First point that we discussed is that I have the ability to pull myself out. You know, the worst thing a person can say is that people say that I'm like an animal. And whatever I'm born with is who I am. I know a person from when they're 10, that's how they're going to be when they're 60. People say that. It's not true. We have to believe in the Eibishter created us not like a cat. Not like the story of the Rambam with the cat. The Eibishter created us that we have keach to change. So I don't care if it's nature, I don't care if it's nurture, there is that ability. That has to be a real recognition of a person. So when you're faced with these hurdles that are coming at you, so you're not being passive, I can't. No, you could. There's a recognition that you have to know the keiches the Eibishter gave you, the abilities that we have pashut as a human. That's number one. Now you want to bring that out. You want to allow. Well, you have to recognize who you are. The Eibishter put every single person as a tafkid, as a journey. Now go on that journey. Now what's that journey? What does that mean? We'll get that in the third part. But the willpower and the journey, that in itself are two recognitions that take time for a person to realize. It can't be, oh, I hear what you're saying. It's got to be a real thing. You've got to. People who don't appreciate that they have something special end up falling somewhere. A child should feel special by parents. And you should feel special by the Eibishter. Not in a ruchnistic way, in a very simple, simplistic, actual. I mean, it's a real thing. I mean, just think about it. Ask yourself one question. I mean, is he bored? Why do you send me down here?
Oh, he's nice.
No. He's purposeful. He doesn't do things because. What do you mean nice? What's nice? What's nice? What's nice by the Eibishter? He does it for what? For what reason did he throw me down here? What did he do it for?
Maybe I'll do a good mitzvah. There's
no maybes by him. That's for sure. He does things with a purpose, and he knows why he's doing it. If he threw me down there, there's a tafkid. There's a, and that leads to the third point. That leads to the third point. So what do we have? Let's review a second, and we'll go to the third point.
Rule 3 points, like from what?
For Perek Chav.
Just back from
These are 3 points that allow a person to get out of atzvos. That allow a person to pull themselves out, right? First thought pattern is the idea of ratzon. Second thought pattern is the tafkid that every single person has. That recognition. And the third is what that tafkid really boils down to. What's the tafkid? Where does that tafkid play out? Right? Obviously it's going to do. So, obviously the tafkid has to do with Torah mitzvahs, right? There's a... so the third, the word purpose, which is really what tafkid means. So they say a glashbertel. They say a rabbi comes into a shul, and everybody in the shul is sitting. So he asks the president. He's usually people stand. Minig amakim is we sit. Next week, everybody's standing. Minig is a stand. So he thought maybe he didn't understand last week. Konish gesagt. The next week, everybody's sitting again. He said, Mr. President, I'm confused. You're sitting, you're standing, you're sitting. Tell me what your minig hamak. He said, Rabbi, why don't you understand? Over here we make a vote every week. First week we made a vote. We sit. Is geworden the minig to sit. Next week we made a vote to stand. The next week we voted to sit. People make purpose based on what they like. What they vote. That's not purpose. That's not purpose. I like this so it becomes my purpose. That's not purpose. Purpose means that the things that the Eibishter gave us that the Eibishter, not necessarily what, and this needs a little bit of attention. So what I'm saying is, I can be blinded, but it's not necessarily a purpose. So I like eating ketchup, so that's not my purpose to eat ketchup. That's not a purpose. In America, people make a purpose out of bologna, the bologna, right? It's not a purpose. So what's type of purpose? Purpose is, there's a story of the Rebbe that I really like. The story, it's on video. It's a very deep interaction. People don't. It's a 7-minute video with Elliot Lasky, right?
That was geweldig.
You saw the video? Yeah.
No, it isn't.
You saw the video? No?
He's talking about the
So I actually listened to it a few times. I was trying to understand.
5 times I listened.
There's the Nekuta is like this. You see begashmius. You see begashmius how the word purpose is not a luxury. It's an inner seeking that the Eibishter created specifically Yidden with him. There's a certain seeking quest that a person has, and Mayim Rabim La Yuchlo L'Chabes, which is the lashon we say in Hebrew. In English, you mean to say I can have a lot of great times in life, but I'm still going to end up with the same thirst and that same quest, and that interaction really shows it. He was a fellow that came from a family. Pay attention to the details. And he dropped everything. It was in the 60s. In the 60s, there was a big movement of hippies, which hippies, by definition, means they're seeking purpose. And when Americans seek purpose, they ended up in all these different corners. I think that what happened in the 60s was they were seeking for purpose. They came to the conclusion there's no purpose, and that became their purpose.
Yeah, well,
And that's how liberals were created.
Yeah,
That's what I think happened. So today we're suffering as a consequence from people not taking advantage of people seeking for purpose, and instead allowing them to make a shita that has no purpose.
Not true.
And that's what we have today.
Not true.
No? Maybe I'm wrong. Okay.
I'm just saying, not true. Been there,
Liberals,
done that, yeah.
the liberals have a purpose.
No, it has nothing to do with liberals.
Okay, what do you want to
Just been
say?
there, done. I don't want to say anything. I'm just saying I beg to differ.
No, I'm saying the 60s, they saw it. But I'm saying today, a lot of these liberals that said I was a hippie then, so a lot of them today already gave up on it. Okay, good. Someone's looking good at people.
We'll discuss it.
Okay, to say that. Regardless, so he was in the 60s, he was seeking.
We had the earpiece last time.
I wasn't around then, so I don't know. So anyway, so anyways, he was seeking, and so he writes how he came. He was 24 in 1973, and he was with the Rolling Stones. He was running around. By then, he was not from. And where does he say that he had a moment of
Waking up.
waking up? Where does he say he was meeting this Buddhist,
Okay.
this Zen Buddhist?
Many of
Pitom nichnas lo machshava. What?
Yeah.
What was the question that came up to him? What's the difference between a Yid and a Goy?
Yeah.
He was seeking something. Where do I stand in the journey of life? If you want to put it in simple words, that was his question. Mm-hmm. What is the journey of life? That's what he was asking. When he met this Buddhist, he said, so where am I? What happened? He calls Garari, by the way, Rabbi Garari from Buffalo. So he told me there was he wasn't only seeking Beruchnis, he was in the danger of Begashmis too with his Rolling Stones. I mean, there was cases of overdose over there. So when he called him, he sent him straight to the Rebbe. And he came to the Rebbe. What happened? He walks. The Rebbe's coming out of the car up to the 770. So he stops the Rebbe. What does he tell the Rebbe? First thing, Anschuldig, seid ihr der Lubavitcher Rebbe? That was his question. He spoke in Yiddish. He knew Yiddish from home. The Rebbe turns around him, and the Rebbe says, "Was ist dein Name? Von wann kommst du? What's your name? Where are you coming? And where do you come?" So he answers, and he asks, "Can ich te fragen a Frage? Can I ask you something?" What does he ask the Rebbe? Wo is God? Where is God? You can see from the way he gives over that this wasn't a philosophical question. This was a quest. This was a quest that you didn't have. We all have that. What's my journey? That was his question. What's my journey? I'm done. Tell me what my journey is. So who's this Eibishter? That was his question. What did the Rebbe tell him back? Umedum. He's not happy. The whole interaction doesn't make sense. He's not happy.
It's
So,
on video?
yeah, it's on
Yeah, it's a
video.
clip.
You can look at Where is God? Elliot Lasky by Jem.
Okay.
Okay? You'll find it on
And
YouTube.
what the Rebbe told him?
So the Rebbe answers back to him. So after it says, Umedum, he says, aber avu is er. He said, ich weiß, aber avu is er. I know that. So the Rebbe answers a second time. The Rebbe tells him, umedum in a beam, in a stain, in a tree, in a stone. So he's not happy. He tells him, ich weiß. He asks, where is God? So first the Rebbe says, all over. So he says, I know that. But where is he? So the Rebbe expresses the thought of what it means God is all over in a second way. In a second way, he says all over, and then he expresses even more, even in the world around you. In other words, not only in a general term, he specifies. You want to try to understand what the Rebbe is saying, right? In a beam, in a stain, and he's all around you. I mean, what's your question, right? So he says, I know that, but where is he? And he's at this point, his eyes were locked. He expressed. He says he was intense. And so the Rebbe answers him, if that's how you're asking, in thine hearts, in your heart. He says over here, he already couldn't take it. He says he asked the Rebbe if he can speak in English. Can I speak in English? The Rebbe says, yeah. So here he asks the Rebbe, he says, if we say in Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, that God is one. So what's the difference between a black man, an Indian, and a Jew? We all have one God. Tough question. The Rebbe answers in one line. The Rebbe answers him, the essence of a black man is to be a black man. The essence of an Indian is to be an Indian. And the essence of a Jew is tied to the Eibishter through Torah mitzvahs. That's what the Rebbe answered. Let's talk about it for a second. Here you see a person is really, you see he's intense. He starts crying in the middle of that. I once said over the story, and there was a girl who told me that she was at a crucial moment. She saw that video, and that video, just by watching that video, that had effect on her.
She was gonna
Right? So it's a very, sometimes when a person says over a story, you hear words. Sometimes you actually almost feel like you were there. It's a very powerful. But what happened up here? What happened? So Rebbe gave him an answer. What happened up here? There's one more point to the story, which is also, always say, the Rebbe changes people. He says, the Rebbe left me with two takeaways. To put on tefillin and to learn Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. But I didn't change overnight. I didn't change over a week. A few months later, I started putting on tefillin. Change doesn't happen overnight. Journeys don't happen overnight. Journeys take time. And you'll look him up afterwards. There's an interview he has where he explains the whole journey of what he had. So what do I bring up in the story?
There's a sequel to that?
There's another. But what do I...
Tell us where to find it.
Okay. So what do I bring? What's the point of the story? The point of the story is purpose is not shot what you choose. Purpose is something given to you. A yid specifically, purpose. See, when you look around, people say, "What's my purpose? My gift. I have a very big talent." That you're right. But there's a purpose within you that takes the gift. Your family is also part of your purpose. Where you live, maybe to put you there is part of your purpose. The circumstance is all part. But there's a general inner feeling of belonging, of a yid is shaykh to Torah mitzvahs. And that allows the gift to play a part. That allows everything else to play a part. The feeling a person, the hardest thing is when you try not to be yourself. You know the worst feeling is? They call it identity crisis. The worst feeling, and that's the atzvus is really part of that. Atzvus, when they say depression, they say midlife, all the crises are all about identity. Pay attention, you'll see that. Midlife crisis, teenage crisis, all the crisis is direction, it's identity. And the answer is identity. Atzvus is an identity symptom. That's what it is. It's an identity symptom. When a person says, I can't, that means they have no I. And therefore they say can't. Think about it. If they would have an eye, they would say, I could, because I have an eye. They don't realize that they are an eye. Usually we're overbloated eyes, right? But atzvus isn't, what?
How do you explain a depression by a very old person?
No reason to live. Same thing.
No reason to live.
I'm gonna show you. I'm
How
gonna
do
send
you
you a
give
video.
him reason to live?
I'll send you a video. I just got it. It's
Really?
amazing.
I have a problem.
Today videos of the answer to everything.
Yeah. Just wait till I show you.
My father was such a happy person, and now he is so depressed. How can you make him happy? I'm trying. I'm changing a little bit, but very hard. Very hard.
Especially when it
But is it purpose doing or just being?
First recognition of purpose is that you have a
But
purpose.
when you
Then you
end
do
of
it.
the
One
road,
second.
then you say, no purpose anymore, גמרתי את הדרך.
But what means end of road? He has a gravestone?
Yeah. It's
No, I mean, doesn't end of. What does it mean end of road? If let me put it this way: if he would recognize, there was a story. Let me tell you this story. The story of Chazak came from Russia, comes to the show, first day back from Russia, and they're waiting in the house for him. He went to shul in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. He doesn't come home. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock.
This is
10.
in Russia?
No, he came to America.
Oh.
His first day, he comes to finally he comes home 12 o'clock. I said, "Wo bist du gefahren? What happened? We got worried." He said, "Why don't you understand? I came to shul. I never heard Amen before. I never heard Amen Yehesh Meirabah. It was 8 o'clock minyan. I davened. I heard Amen Yehesh Meirabah. Then there was another minyan. I'm going to chaper on another Amen. Another Baruch Hu. Then there was another minyan. I had to hear another Amen. I couldn't go home. Now they finished Meirabah. I came home." So what does purpose mean? Purpose means a yoiker, a preciousness. I found a great deal, right? I found an Amen. I found Yehesh Meirabah. A person doesn't have to have the deal is what's the big deal for what is that big deal for you? So yeah, a person reaches a point where they feel down, so they have to awaken within themselves. Even the dvar, like when the mitzvah you tell them halavai, you should have the same yoker for the tefillin every day, right? So it's normal to tmidin kisizron, it's normal to go into cruise. When a person's in cruise, you stop for a second. And the purpose is here. You have a life, you have children, you have Yiddish in mind, you have that, and you have friends. I mean, there's you don't have to go to Disneyland to find a way to awaken. There's things that you already have, and the day-to-day things that you have to push it to have. There's precious things in front of you. There's no need to look for new things. Sometimes simple. There could be other reasons why a person doesn't see.
Maybe because it could be.
Maybe he's.
Doesn't say it. Pashut doesn't say it.
Maybe there's.
Very hard. Very hard.
I'm not there.
And I never thought that it can be like this. Never.
We had this story. Someone else mentioned the story that her mother was ill with. Remember that story?
Which one?
She was ill with cancer. It was an incredible story. She was ill with cancer.
He's not
She
in
was-
Baruch Hashem.
No, there was a different story.
I'm saying I'm just like a Perek.
No, Chas v'shalom, I'm saying a story. And she was an elderly woman. She was, 80, 90? She was running a hedge fund, a $1 billion hedge fund. Her head was still there. Remember that story?
Oh, yeah, somebody was talking about
Yeah.
their mother. Yes.
But she was suffering a lot. And then she watches as her mother is taking a call. The way it works is they're looking at the screen to see the numbers and everything. And the mother's taking a call, and basically the person on the line is describing the screen in front of her. And she's listening as if it came on the like she doesn't even know the numbers in front of her. So after the call, she asks the mother, "Ma, what are you doing?" So mother says, "Why don't you understand? That person is suffering a lot. And they called me, and I realized they feel like they have no purpose. So I wanted to give them a purpose. So I gave them a purpose by giving me information. Ki'ilu, I don't know it. So now they feel good. Now they feel like they did something. And so that's why I was listening to her. It's an incredible thing. She's suffering herself. Incredible suffer. And what is she thinking about? How to give someone else a feeling. By the way, they say the biggest trufa for atzvus is do a favor for someone else. Because now You're letting go. It gives a whole different. In the Chachmei, in the Gemara, when they had the debate between the Chacham and the Greek king over there, they asked the Greek king, asked the Chacham, what's the happiest person? And he said, someone who does a favor for someone else. The Gashmi is it that way. It allows a person to let go. It gives a person a sense of real fulfillment, just like this lady, mamish like this lady. It also helped her. The Eibishter made it that way. So that's an incredible story how a person lets go. That's purpose. Purpose means when you recognize something deeper within you. It's not the taste. It's not the things you like. And that's the tafkid over. So what do we have over here? We have it like this. And we'll do the Tanya inside. What do we have here? This one. What do we have over here? We have, let's start off with atzvus. Right? We start off with a description of atzvus. What's atzvus? Atzvus is when a person feels tied down. Atzvus is when a person feels clogged, when a person feels they can't continue, they feel like it's over. I can't. 3 thoughts. First thought is realize what you could do. Realize what humans are. Gosh, what Eibishter created humans are. We have the ability to let go. We have the ability to go forward. We have the ability to... don't ever say that my hands are tied. No one ties your hands. Nature, nurture, the biggest strangers that are knocking on your door, you have the choice to open or close. Don't ever say my hands are tied. It's not true. Is it hard? Yeah. But it's not impassable. That's number 1. That recognition is key. Otherwise, you can't continue. That's simply the foundation before everything. Number 2, a person has to recognize that, and that's the head. That's the head unclogging. The second, why don't you shut it off? So the second recognition a person has to recognize is the importance of an individual, right? The importance of an individual, the importance that they are. Pasha to feel important. This is not ego. This is why they should send you to the world. If you're not there was once a chassid that said, my gaiva helped me in Moscow from not doing an Aveda. Right? Because he realized who he really is. He can't afford to lose time. It's like a businessman saying, I have no time for garbage. I have a deal to close. So when you feel you're important, that's a healthy thing. You have no time to just lay around. I'm an important guy. I'm not a loser. That is the opposite of atzvus. That's the opposite of atzvus. Opposite is that I'm a loser. Why are you a loser? Because you're not important. It's not true. It's not true. It's not true. That allows a person to look at things that happen to them differently. Because if there's a purpose and there's a designer and able to put me here, so ra'ah and toiva. Ra'ah means it's purposeless, and toiva means purpose. That's really what the bottom of ra and toiva is. It's not evil and good. It's not pain and enjoyment. That's not what it is. There could be painful moments that have purpose. Toiv is purpose, and ra means there's no purpose. Pashida achzor. There's no achzor here putting things into this world. The Eibush is not an achzor. Do I understand? No. Do I try to understand? No. But it's not an achzor. It's purposeful. That purposeful allows me to... The third point is that the Torah mitzvahs is not meant... This is because a lot of times it comes from Torah mitzvahs. Torah mitzvahs is the tafkit in the end of the day. It allows you to feel better. Torah mitzvahs is part of how a person feels better. A lot of the symptoms of atzvus is running away from Torah mitzvahs. A lot of michtavim, you see, be moisev in this, but it's not just a ruchniistic thing, it's actually an answer to the symptom. The symptom is the quest like that Elliot Lasky. He had the Rolling Stones, he had a lot of stuff that were going good for him in life. He was unhappy. And he was be'atzvus. He was really be'atzvus at that moment. He was going to commit suicide from what I hear. That's how he was at that moment. Doesn't say that in the story. He was really bad. And what did Rebbe tell him? This is your tafkid. This is who you are. Torah mitzvahs is part of the tafkid. Now let's see it a little bit inside. Now that we have this, let's see it inside. Yeah.
Each person has their own unique tafkid within Torah mitzvahs. Unique, like I learned that specifically the area that you have challenges, that's your unique area within Torah.
That's true. Every person. Now the challenges that are hit at me. Now the donkey in the pit. the things that are thrown at you, now you can perceive them differently. I like, there's one more story that is going to add to this. Again, I shared the story before, but it's relevant here. The story with the NPR. Remember the story with the NPR? So there was a fellow who was a principal in a, remember the story? There's a fellow who was a principal in an urban school off Maryland. And he was there, he was a Lubavitcher. He was a Lubavitcher Chaz, he was about Shulvi, he became a Lubavitcher. And he was a principal there for 10 years. He did very well. NPR interviewed him. I actually just said over the story somewhere. And a lady told me she's from the NPR news station. So she says to me, she says, I very much understand. This is Taka very, very shy after the NPR. So he was interviewed, and during the interview, basically NPR is not such a Oyev Yisrael. They're not. So they don't really love from a Yidden. NPR is a liberal news station. It's a liberal news station. So during the interview, he expressed himself to the lady. He said, "Look, I have a passion for chinuch, I have a passion for education. I want to make a difference in these children that they come from underprivileged homes, etc., etc." And he expressed himself. He's like, if it wasn't there, they would be looting the city. But he said it in a sense like, so therefore when I come home, I feel good. I feel like I did something. The headline the next day in the paper was, white man says black kids are going to loot the city. Remember that? So why am I sharing this story? What we want to hear in life is what we will hear. Many times, what we hear is what we want to hear. The NPR interviewer didn't want to hear something that's against his way of looking at the world. Life is the same thing. Challenge is thrown at us. It's what we want to hear is what we will hear. Donkey didn't hear someone looking to bury him. The donkey found an opportunity. What we want to hear is what we will hear. The approach we have to those challenges will change what the challenge is. And that happens in every case that we have painful moments. Often, instead of kvetching why, which has no purpose to say why, kvetch and say, what can I do? How can I find an opportunity? There's got to be an opportunity here. Why did it happen? Is it painful? Yeah. Is it hard? Yeah. Is it easy? No. Do we cry? Yeah. Do we stumble? Yeah. But the approach is important. Because saying why leads to atzvos. Because you're never going to have an answer for why. So you end up saying, I'm not important. You end up saying all the negative things. Saying, what can I get out of it? You'll find something. Because you're going forward. And you're on the journey. And David put you on a journey. And that's why David gave it to you. Will you ever find out why? No. But you're going to be able to go forward. Maybe yeah. Maybe not. Doesn't make a difference. But you'll go forward. And that is the key in Mevorech al Haro. That's the key of changing atzvos. It's all in the head. That's these bonus down to the brights and chofov. These bonus, fancy words. He's basically telling you think. Stop and think. Take these thought patterns and change the way you're approaching your situation. So I promise to learn a little insight, so we'll do a little insight as well. Yeah? Okay, so what do we have? 3 thoughts. First thought was Ratzon. The Alter Rebbe here in this Perek is not really going to deal with the Ratzon. It's given from previous Prakim, Mayach Shalat, and there's a lot of Prakim on that. But here you'll see a lot about the second and third point. So let's start from and I'm going to do the first paragraph. So he says like this. First point he says is, a person has to know a general rule. Just like when you have a war. Just like when you have a war and you want to win a physical war, 2 people fighting with each other. Now, what is he going to say over here? Here he's going to say, in my simple English, he's going to say, it's not about talent, it's about attitude. That's what he's going to say over here in these lines. If a person doesn't have the right attitude, even if he's stronger. What does it mean, stronger? Talented. It has nothing to do with talents, IQ, or gifts. It has everything to do with attitude. Kocham mamish b'netzachen hayetzer. The same thing applies with our inner struggle that we have in a day-to-day. The heaviness that we have as an expression of the attitude of I can't, you cannot win. You cannot go forward with that. That comes from atzvus and timtum. Timtum is stuffed. Person is stuffed, clogged. You need a plumber when you're clogged. What do we need? Zrizus. Zrizus, swiftness, eagerness. Person that, when you're excited about something, that comes from simcha and openness. So how does that happen? Obviously, that's the question. How does that happen? Till here. I'm not going to go into the next part, right? Next part is another discussion. Now let's go over here. Eitza yutza. Next paragraph. What's the eitza? So how do you do that? What's the eitza? First paragraph, he tells us the goal. The goal is to let go of the heaviness. Attitude. Attitude is the goal. That's number one that he's telling you in this paragraph. Don't think about talent. Don't get caught up. This is attitude and shaykh to every single person, because attitude is for every single person. Talents, everybody has different talents. It's not about a talent. This is about an attitude. So how does a person do that? What's the eitzah? He doesn't explain too long. He just has a few lines. L'tahar liboy, for a person to open themselves up. Mikol eitzah v'nidnu daiga. Mimili di'am, we're talking about ordinary life challenges. We're not talking about big Yiddish Shemayim. We're talking about the challenges of Banei Chayim, Ezaynei, all the regular stuff that tie us down. How does a person let go of that? He doesn't explain. He just does a line. We all know the Maimer Chazal, Kshem Shemavarech ala Toiva, and that's supposed to somehow help us let go of Atzvos. How? Pirshe b'Gemara l'kabuli b'simcha. Now obviously there's a lot of dargis in what this means. That's why first point that I brought up, Toiv and Ra and Tanya is purpose and not a purpose. That's the elementary level of Shem Shemavarech ala Ra. There's bigger levels, Gamzul Toiv, Rabbi Kiva, beautiful stories. The elementary level of Toiv and Ra, Nefesh Elokis is Toiv. What does it mean, Toiv? Nefesh Bahamas also has a lot of good things. It has Baishonim, it has a lot of stuff. Toiv is purpose. Ra means there's no purpose. Think about it. What's evil? What's bad? Bad is pain. What's bad? Bad is when someone does something to you without any purpose. There's nothing good. Good is purpose. Bad is no purpose. Comes along now that Rebbe tells you, take one thought pattern. Realize you have a purpose. That's the thought pattern he's telling you. Simple eitzah. Realize you have a purpose. And Kishem Shemavarech ala Toiva, the good things that happen, the bad things that happen, the painful moments and not painful moments, everything there has to come from the perception of purpose. And later in Perek Memalef Membeis, that Alter Rebbe goes into a lengthy discussion of how important Olav Befrat, how important an individual is in the eyes of the Eibishter. Olav Befrat. He lets go of everything for me. This is an amazing thought. This is an amazing thought that should empower an individual. Just like, you just expound on it in your own head. Just like someone chashuv asks you something. David should put us all here for a reason. Simple thought patterns. Sometimes the simplest things are the hardest. Simple is not easy. Simple is hard. Lashon Pshutim is hard. So the thought pattern Alter Rebbe tells us is the simplistic recognition that I don't have to see and I don't have to understand. He continues on with that. I don't have to see, I don't have to perceive, I don't have to only have blissful moments, I don't only have to have enjoyable moments, I have to have a recognition behind those moments. There's a purpose, it was given to me for a reason. And that allows a person to continue on and let go of atzvos. That allows a person to let go of atzvos. Atzvos means there's no purpose. I'm stuck. The moment you have purpose, you can't be atzvos. The moment you're important, you can't be atzvos. There's something ahead. I have something to do. People wake up and can't wake up because they don't feel like they have something to do that day. And that's what this Perek is coming to tell us. So again, I finished with the last 3 points. What did we learn over here? We learned over here an anecdote to atzvos. Atzvos in one word is someone who feels stuck and has no purpose. And the moment a person recognizes they are important and they have a journey and they're on a journey, that's the opposite of atzvos. In other words, atzvos is a lack of a journey, and zizus is the recognition of a journey. To put it in 2 words, If you recognize you're on a journey, you have now taken the reins and you're pulling the leash. Because that's the definition of a journey. Journey means I'm leading. So there's going to be painful moments. There's going to be tough moments. But you're not going to say I can't. You're not going to. What we're talking about is the word I can't. You're talking about is not the word I can't. What you're talking about is I could, but get me there, and I want to get there, and you have the eagerness to get there. That's great. It's not I can't. Good. That's good. Those are regular. When you wash the kitchen, it's also it takes time. It's difficult, right? Everything when you wash, anything you wash takes time, right? Fine, that's okay. There's a dirty floor. Fine, got it. Stuck in the mud. The kid fell. Bloody nose. Got it. But I can't is a dangerous thing. And those are the dangerous moments. I can't leads to Avodah Zarah. Atzvus, Chassidus used to say, Atzvus is the Pesach of all Avedis. Once a person says, I can't, what I recently see, I was reading to my daughter, the Tom, the heavenly. So it was a Chassid that writes, right, there's a story of a Chassid, that there used to be Magidim, used to go down to, they used to have these preachers that used to go around in the olden days. And before Chassidus came around, they would always be very negative. So there was one city where there was a known Talmud Chacham that always, whenever a Magid came, gave him money and skin. Go. And everybody was like, why is he doing that? So one time he explained, I'll tell you why. Because I used to be a Ish Pashat. I used to be a simple person. And this Magid gave a drasha. And when I heard that I have no hope, I became a Balaveda. He came with his whole Gehenim thing. For me, it was, I have no hope, I don't matter, I'm nothing. That's what he told me. That's what I heard. I became a Balaveda. Until the Chassidim of the Baal Shem Tov, one of the Nistarim came, started speaking to me with hope, and that's how I came back. Atzvus, I have no hope, leads to Avedas. All the time. Negativity, you have no hope, leads to Avedas. The moment you don't matter, you leave the journey and you open up new journeys. And that's why it's the most dangerous thing. And that's what the Alter Rebbe tells us, Psicha and Zrizus, all these the opposite attitude is the way that we lead to good things, which is a hope we should have good moments, we should have the challenges, and it should be easy, and everybody needs what they need.
So, I just want to